Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. Listen, do you ever have a random thoughts or mental mind chatter, the voices in your head and wonder, like, wait, is this my intuition talking? Or is this, you know, just me in my head, in my thoughts, rambling? Like, who said that anyway? This episode's all about ClairAudience. I hope you enjoy our time together.
Hello, and welcome to the Constance Messmer Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Welcome back. So I think the biggest thing to recognize is that intuition can happen on an internal level or an external level, right? External is easy. You hear your name spoken out, like even awaking you from a dream, or you walk into a room and you swear you heard your name called and nobody's there. Although I would invite you to put your hands on your heart and ask who's here. Close your eyes if you need to focus in on the clairaudient aspect of it. Sometimes footsteps or whatnot. My kids used to hear footsteps in the house. One son in particular, he was like, "Oh my God, Mom, there's people walking around." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm sorry. Let's tell them to be quiet and they can't scare us." Like, don't. It's not okay. It's not okay, family from the past, to come through walking in the house. So external clairaudience happens a lot. And by that, I mean, no one else hears it, right? Or there's no physical reason behind it. It's happening on this other level, on a soul level. And so, things that go bump in the night kind of stuff. So that happens. But also on an internal level, I think that the issue with when it happens internally, the experience can throw you off and you wonder, was I thinking that, or was that like an intuitive moment? Did I just have my intuition kind of come up on something? And I want you to remember, as with all the 11 soul senses, I want you to remember that your 11 soul senses, your intuition can engage you throughout moments in your life, right? As kind of a passive intuitive hit, but you can also actively engage your soul senses and clairaudience to fortify it, to use it, right, in various ways. And predominantly, I always teach to use it in dialogue, whether with your wise self, intra-psychic rapport, or with spirit, other or others, inter-psychic rapport, from one to another or more. And I gotta cross my legs and get a drink. I'm like, So, clairaudience. Oh, I should read my definition. Darn, on my webpage. It's on my webpage. If you go to constancemessmer.com and click on the About, you can read the quick and easy version of your 11 soul senses. Under there is clairaudience. You'll find it. Or you can go to Glossary, where it's the dictionary definition that I'd like to have updated in all the dictionaries worldwide. How's that? That's your homework. Go look it up, because I forgot my phone to bring it. Oh, ba-ba-da-ba. Spirit said, look down. That was a clairaudient moment in my head when I was talking to you. And looking down, I see that I have a list of these. Wouldn't it be nice if I turned right to it, but I didn't. Okay, the dictionary definition, which I love, that I'd like everybody to start doing, is clairaudience, the power or faculty of sensing auditory information in your mind or externally that has no physical origin, right? I think we can all agree with that. The ability to perceive sounds beyond the range of physical perception. And so it's censoring auditory information. So this can be, in all forms. Putting the paper down. Words, song lyrics, sounds, frequencies, pitches, ringing, that's not tinnitus, right? All of these ways. And these are ways either our wise self gets our attention or spirit gets our attention. And by spirit, it could be your spirit guides, loved ones that have crossed, angels, divine consciousness, enlightened beings. It could also be through spirit, through soul, sensory perception of clairaudience, that maybe a loved one that is living is trying to get your attention, to converse and have you understand something. And in the moments where you get an intuitive hit, don't brush it off. Like you're like all of a sudden you hear something, stop, do this now, look down at the paper on the big desk. This is guidance to help you, right? And those were coming at me. I didn't ask my wise self, what could I do instead or anything. That was just who was that? It feels like angelic light that came around to help guides. When I look in my spans of like who's helping, it's like, Constance, you need all the help you can get. We all show up. Whoa, the spirit teams. So ClairAudience, when you, I'm asking them at the same time, like, where was I? Where were we going with this? Oh, when the thoughts drop in, I think the biggest thing is discerning, like, right, when it comes in out of nowhere, you know me, put your hands on your heart, close your eyes if you need to, and say, what's that thought coming from? Where's that thought coming from? Is it me? What am I supposed to do here? Now, listen, if it's a directive, like, pass that truck, pass fast, pass now when you're driving on the interstate, you listen to that voice. Like, what harm would it do? Don't, whatever. So there's moments when the intuitive connection comes to us in a clairaudient experience so that we can have some direction, right? But you can actively engage your clairaudience, right? I think we do it all the time when we're thinking about someone, a friend, we're thinking about them, thinking about them, thinking about them to the point of actually saying their name, in our mind. I wonder how Abby's doing. And then all of a sudden they call, right? It's like, oh, well done. Abby, don't call. I'm recording. So I think we do these things all the time, right? And so when you're actively engaged in dialogue, that is clairaudience, and it is inter-psychic rapport from your soul to other person's soul, whether they're alive, like Abby's alive, or, my dad on the other side, or angels and that. You can engage with your traditional dialogue in your meditation time or actively in your day-to-day life, like when you're doing your chores or whatever. I'm sure a lot of you people, I'm sure a lot of you talk to your, deceased loved ones, right? They don't like that word, deceased. Deceased, does that mean stop? Discarnate's better because it means out of body. Passed on is great. They don't mind that, but they didn't cease to be living. Wow, these are corrections I'm getting. Like they were like, stop, don't use that word. We don't like that word. I'm like, okay, we're not using that word. So conversing with your loved ones on the other side, I think there's a lot of you that probably talk to your family members or friends in your mind a lot. And I want you to be open to the fact that they're talking right back to you. Clairaudience, as all the 11 soul senses specifically, those are a two-way street. You can use it to send information for communication purposes, but it's also received by you for communication purposes from them, especially in inter-psychic rapport when you're conversing with another. And so I would invite you to enter into engaged dialogue in your meditation time, specifically to have conversation. If you've been following me for a while, perhaps you heard the How to Meet Your Spirit Guide. Did I do that one? How to Meet Your Angels. Like, these are examples of where you can go into these meditative moments and engage in dialogue to get direction, guidance, perspective, and help. Now, what happens in those moments, or even in your day-to-day life, if you're like me, sometimes, if they don't get it through in meditation time, because I skipped meditation time and went to the gym or something, or worked on the next podcast, they might get me while I'm driving. So I have to go, okay, who said that? Who said that airdropped thought in my head? So when the thoughts come in, it's really about recognizing that sometimes it will be in their voice, right? But sometimes it'll be in your voice, in the thoughts in your head. And to just be open, always open to the experience and recognizing this is dialogue, right? So you can say, who said that? Or where's that coming from? Now, the cool thing about spending time in a dedicated practice of engaging in conversation with a specific loved one, with your guardian angel, with your spirit guide, with God, with, whomever, with your dog that is alive. The more time you actively engage in that experience, the stronger you will get at the experience. And in particular with spirit guides and angels, you'll get used to the frequency, how they sound, how their voice is, how it flows, right? I offer a ton of journals in my shop. They're bullet point notebooks, actually. I have one journal, the Soul Sensibilities Journal. Maybe you picked it up while we're going through the 11 soul senses. This ClairAudient episode is 1 in 11 series of going through your 11 soul senses at the start of the new year. New you, new year, 11 soul senses in 11 weeks. Woohoo. And so, maybe pick that up if you want to take notes in there, but otherwise a notebook, so that when you're having these dialogue experiences in your personal practice of meditation time to connect, you are writing down and documenting the experience. Like, how does their voice sound? Does it come with intonation? And for me, I specifically not only journal about the technique of the experience and the occurrence of how the content is coming at me and coming to me, right? But also I use it as a me, and then, insert name. Lately, I've been working, I did the angel meditation while I was re-listening to it. I was like, I better re-listen to this. A lot of the stuff, when I get this stuff comes channeled, and I'll just deliver what they're like. I'll sink into them and let them speak through me, or it'll be like I'll act as a medium in my own experience where I'll get the information and then pass it along to you, or it'll be from my history file of lessons taught over 30 years of this material. But sometimes when I'm recording those episodes, it's just a single take, and I'm like, oh geez Louise, I hope this is good, right? So I was reviewing it and listening to the episode, and I thought, well, I should just do this meditation on this angel thing to see if it's worth its salt, because I don't like leading meditations. Okay. So I'm listening, and as I'm listening, my husband's listening, and he's like, wow, this is really good. This is really good. I'm like, thanks. I don't work alone. Can't take all the credit. And while I'm listening, I'm like tuning into the meditation thing. And all of a sudden I felt this angelic presence by me. And I was like, wow, who are you? I didn't stop the recording. I didn't close my eyes, put my hands on my heart. I just validated the fact that someone was present, right? Because the vibration shifted. ClairSensation, right? We've already been through that. If you haven't watched the other episode, just few before this. No, right before this. Yeah. ClairSensation. And so I felt that, honored that moment of recognition, and then said, who's here? And he said, Angel Gabriel. And I was like, whoa, Archangel Gabriel? I've never worked with Gabriel, ever, ever. So I'm going to have to sit with Gabriel, because Gabriel's like, listen, we're going to team up. Gabriel's a messenger, right? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I'm a messenger too. All right. I'll hang with you. Please teach me everything you think I need to know, because I'm sure I have a lot to learn. And so, because 2026 for me is going to be a lot about putting the message out in various ways, it'll be great to work with Gabriel. But it came in as a voice, right? And I haven't worked with Gabriel enough yet in meditation to really kind of understand his presence and understand the vibrational frequency of how he's going to communicate with me verbally, right? Through my clairaudient thoughts. And so it's going to take time. This is what I'm telling you, is that I encourage you this week, when you work on your clairaudience, is to use it as you dive into engaged dialogue with your guides, with your angel, with whomever, and trust what you get back. So I might have to I should start a Gabriel notebook, right? Where I say me. I'm going to call you AG. A.G. I hope you don't mind that, because it's, I don't want to write down every other sentence as Angel Gabriel. Yeah, I think it'll be cool, especially because he's going to be like this powerhouse, right? I say he because whatever, because they don't have a sexual orientation. They're pure energy. But I'll work with Angel Gabriel so that I can recognize his voice and recognize the connection, so that when I'm in my practice of sitting with him, with Angel Gabriel, and I get that solidly connection, I will recognize that same voice, that same frequency of vibration, that same connection when I'm out and about in my regular world. And he's like, go talk to that person. And I think I know, actually, because he's telling me, yeah, that was me. That was me. Gabriel's been with me through my life. I've never looked to go, is there an archangel that works with me? Chills. That's a hug. That's a spirit hug. I've never done that. Usually I'm just like talking, and I'm like, okay, great. And I know the thread of truth and light and love. So I don't always say, who's talking to me? Who's talking to me? But Gabriel is saying, I've been with you most of your life, and especially when you started on the path, the dedicated path of teaching and delivering truth in these higher frequencies. So I'm like, great, thank you. And it'll be really great to work with Gabriel more succinctly and more specifically, and where I'm recognizing, oh, I better show up. If you're calling a meeting, I better attend the meeting, right? So when you take the time to really build rapport, right, with a being in spirit, someone in spirit, or someone through the spirit realm, through soul sensibilities, whether it's your non-vocal family member or parent with dementia, but you want to talk to them still on a higher conscious level because you can, using ClairAudience and all the rest. You build that rapport in your meditation time, so that then when you're out and about in your world, you can still do it while you're driving or doing the dishes or going for a walk or whatever. So it's really important to take and make quality time, right? Spend quality time so that you can establish rapport. So the biggest thing is to remember, the biggest thing that I encourage you to do is that when you pose a question, whether you choose to write it down or just ask it, you set the intention to speak to that specific being of light, right? You only want to talk to the good people, whether there's someone that you know or whatnot. But you make the connection with intention. Like, okay, so how would I do that? I'm going to sit with a new journal, new bullet notebook, and it'll be my Angel Gabriel notebook. And I'll just say Angel Gabriel, I'll just say Gabriel. The second, especially the angelic realm, the second we don't even have to finish saying their name, right? This is how Mother Mary has always been to me. I don't even have to say her name out, and whatever I'm asking for happens. Usually I ask her, can you help me get this task finished or whatever? Like, you would not believe the silly things I go to spirit for. And you would not believe the silly things that I pray for help for. They're always there. They show up. So with Angel Gabriel, it's the intention. Because if I'm going to sit down and bring my Angel Gabriel notebook, Angel Gabriel's already like, I'm already there. I'm already there, Constance. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you to finish putzing around, putting that other load of laundry in before you sit down. So we're set. So because I've set that intention, because I've set that intention, I will start the conversation. I will write my name down, or me, and then I'll either journal it or I'll just start the conversation. What do you want me to know today? And you trust the first thing that comes back. He just said, you're a great speaker. Because I doubt that, you guys. I'm like, are you kidding? I can like flop all over because I'm getting flooded with so much information, right? He's like, you're fine. Listen, I think, I'm going to use the God word. God doesn't call the perfect. God just called people that will freaking listen and follow through. And so that's me. I'm just devoted, right? I'm just like, whatever you ask of me, I'll do my dharma. So Gabriel, you're so sweet to say that. First thing that floods in, right? And when these things happen, it doesn't come from me, it comes to me. And that's going to help you discern in your own spiritual practice, right? In your own spiritual awakening, as you work to gain and build rapport with solid connection, is the information or the words are because you're going to ask a question and the information may come flooding back. Now with Gabriel and higher realms of spirit, especially angels, you can barely get the question out and the answer will come flooding back. And it may flip to claircognizance, this knowing, right? Because their frequency is so high. But you can ask them to slow down, or chills, goosebumps. I'm getting thanked. You can ask them to slow down and make it a ClairAudient connection. Ask them to make it a ClairSensation connection, right? And you're always going to hold on with ClairSensation or ClairSentiment, so physical feeling or emotional feeling, as your backup to any ClairAudience you get. You're going to feel the thread of truth as you're hearing it, right? And so in those moments, I'm probably going to bring my writing issues to Gabriel because he's a messenger. So why not? And ask him about some business writing strategies, right? I won't bring my family dynamic issues. So personally, I won't bring that in. And I don't do the practice as a practitioner that does Reiki or energy healing or anything anymore. But you could definitely ask for a guide that is specifically a healing guide that you could work with to help with your discernment and clarity when you're delivering information as a practitioner, as a reader, or even as a professional, as a speaker, right? Can you help me find can you help me with that? Like help me like do TED Talk style, like shoo, focus in. And oh, you know what he's saying? He's saying, Constance, it can't always be TED Talk style because that's like this one kind of formula and one theme. And usually when you're called to do this kind of a talk on ClairAudience, we're trying to have you flood a lot of people so you can hit a lot of hearts. And, so I'm just delivering what I'm being told to deliver to you for what you might need to hear. So Your 11 Soul Senses, a journal for self-discovery, is something I created just for you. It is complete with definitions, writing prompts, and blank journaling pages to help you reconnect with your true essence and your soul sense abilities. To get your copy, visit my shop or go to constancemessmer.com. And thanks for tuning in. Those of you that work as practitioners in the field of energy healing or healing work, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, right, can definitely call on an angel that does healing work or a guide that does healing work to help you in your personal practice, even a business manager that can help you establish your personal practice. And I'm definitely going to turn to Gabriel as a speaker, but writer definitely in writing the message and delivering the message. I'm getting goosebumps and chills. So that's confirmation that he's really aligned with writing, right? He said, if you write, then we'll bring you through to what needs to be spoken in the arenas that you're going to speak in person. I can't wait. That's my wish, is to see you in person. I want to see you in person. My friend that's listening and hearing this. Yeah, that would be my great desire, right? So I think that the neat thing is when you take the time to sit with your practice, where your maybe even eyes are closed and you're really deeply listening and you're being open to the first thought that comes through as the answer and the response, and you learn to recognize it, right? So I think that the discernment tips that I would give you, whether you're out and about in your day-to-day world or in your own personal practice of dedicated time, of prayer time, whatever you want to call it, meditation time or conversation time, right, is don't confuse clairaudience with self-talk. Self-talk is going to be like the inner critic, right? There's no way Angel Gabriel would be like, you're not worthy. You can't do it. Who do you think you are? That's Constance's inner critic, right? I don't have those thoughts much anymore. Usually when those thoughts come up, I'm like, I have no time for you. No way, whatever. Go higher, put on the mind of God and go, oh, I made you perfect and whole. And what I call you to do, I will bring you through. That's what he's telling you. That's a message for you. That's not just Constance, pay attention. This is for you too, but I'm passing it on to you. If you're called to it, you will be brought through it, even when you don't think you have the skills or strengths. You're welcome. Goosebumps because I'm listening and passing along what I'm supposed to, right? Self-talk can be the inner critic, right? And so when you're having those moments that come in, that's not intuition. That's like you kind of giving yourself a hard time. Stop giving yourself a hard time. It could be old tapes from your childhood or whatever and someone else's voice. And so maybe you ask, whose voice is that? And be okay with the first picture that shows up, right? And then just say, help me dissolve this. That's not a helpful voice. That's not a helpful voice. And maybe you go into dialogue, the unravel, like what's the journey from? Call that person to mind if it feels safe and comfortable and say, why did you say that to me? And it could be that they can't express that on a soul level. I'm not talking about doing this in person, although maybe you could if you felt comfortable and safe doing that. I'm talking about doing it on a soul level. Talk your soul to their soul, inter-psychic rapport, where you're talking to their soul and you're saying, would you even say such a thing? And they might go, well, blame them. That's how I was like raised too. And it just keeps you in your place. So there's no, and then you go way back in the family lineage and go, who started that? Because that's pretty ridiculous. You know what I mean? And maybe it was someone that stood up too tall and was arrogant and egotistical and they had a great fall, right? And so then from then on, it was like, oh, you can't shine. You can't shine. You got to cower and play small. And so this, maybe you're the one to change it all. You are the one to change it all. Speak your truth, live authentically, be who you were claimed and made to be, right? Be who God made you to be. When you know you're supposed to do something, KNOW, do it. And ask for help. And ask, how do I do that? I don't know how, or I don't know the first steps. Use ClairAudience to have the dialogue, and then let the awareness come to you. The awareness in ClairAudience will come maybe in a dream time and a knowing. It might come as just when you're journaling it out and you're like, okay, give me the 5 steps to start. Give me the 1 step to start this week, and what is that? I, I'm not going to, how do I want to say this? I know that when I manifest, sometimes I have to do things, right? I can't have a really awesome best-selling book unless I write the freaking book. So maybe you've got something that you really, really want to manifest, but there's a step you've got to take. Do it. And if you don't know how, say help. Bring that to your prayer time. Bring that to your dialogue time to go, what's the step? How do I make space for this? How do I even begin? I remember when I couldn't afford having a treatment space because where I live, spaces are expensive. And then it was like, oh my God, do house calls. How cool is this? Doing house calls, just schlepping my table. And then it ended up, I was able to work from my home. It was a cottage industry and had an office in my home. It was great. I mean, great. Like a little cottage on a pond. Gorgeous. What a gift, right? If it's meant to be, the gifts will come. If you take the first initiative and are willing to put some, sweat equity into it, maybe, or bravery into it, or courage, like, okay, I'll go shake that person's hand or meet that person. The dreams will come to you. And I think a lot of the manifesting efforts come through with ClairAudience, maybe because it's for me. ClairAudience is my jam. I'm always chatting, right? I told you this before. We're friends. I can tell you I chat all the time, right? This is things. It's not schizophrenia, because it's not grandiose, right? What comes back is not grandiose. I don't think it's grandiose to think I could be speaking on big public stages around the world. I think that's just part of my dharma. I think that you can recognize what is the voice telling you to do, as everything I've already told you. The voice that you're supposed to listen to, the voices that come to you in your head and in your thoughts, whether they sound like you or sound like something else, are only going to bring goodness, light, love, peace, joy, right? They're never going to have you bring harm to yourself or others. That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. And it also probably won't say you're the savior of the world, but it might say your part's important. I mean, look at Greta. Wow. Jump out and do what you're called to do, right? This is important. So self-talk could include the inner critic or the inner narrator, where you're kind of thinking what your next step is or what you're doing or how you're feeling about something. Sometimes if we pay attention and become mindful of where our mind is at, we can recognize there's this inner narrator kind of playing out our day. But mostly, my favorite thing is to recognize that that the 2 ways that the intuition can happen, or this intuitive expression through ClairAudience can occur, is when I'm actively engaging it to have dialogue on whatever level with whomever, and when it's an intuitive hit out of nowhere, a voice that just says, do this, do that, right? So is the voice coming to you? Is the voice coming from you? Very different. And if you're people that are channels or readers, you might have the voice come through you, right? Some of you might recognize that you're compelled to say something to someone that especially if you're worried about, and God maybe uses you or their angels use you to say something that just lands perfectly for them. So sometimes ClairAudience can come as thoughts that we're compelled to say, and it's really spirit speaking through us, or you're being the mouth of the vocal piece of higher realms to deliver a message across. That's what I'm doing now, right? But some of you might be same like me, right? Or if you're a teacher, all of a sudden, something comes through and you're like, wow, that was inspired. That was inspired thought, right? That came from elsewhere. I would always invite you to close your eyes, put your hands on your heart and say, where'd that come from? Who spoke through me? Now, it could be your wise self that's in touch and tapped in and tuned into all that is, or it could be a guide or, something else, right? But also, I think we're called to do this in our quiet moments of interaction with friends and family. We might be inspired to say something and then all of a sudden go, what did I just say? Because they're like, wow, that was amazing. I totally needed to hear that. And we're like, what did I just say? Sometimes that's ClairAudient moving through us from spirit realm or whomever. And sometimes it can flip from hearing it and delivering it like a medium to becoming the channel where the words just flow through you and spirit just uses you to deliver the words, right? And so ClairAudience can also come as when it's guidance for you from wherever, or even your wise self wanting to tell yourself something like the 8 days a week. I heard when I was figuring out how long do I want to do this silent retreat for, and I kept hearing the Beatles song 8 days a week. I love you. And I love that because, first of all, my husband loves the Beatles. He saw them in concert once, Shea Stadium. But also, it was a great way it kept playing over and over and over in my head as an answer to how long should I go into silent meditation retreat. And I was not even aware that there was an 8-day program at the space I always go to. So I was floored, of course, but not really, of course. I was like, oh, there it is. There's the 8 days. And I was like, and when I ask like who said that, I just hear a bunch of angels giggling. Ha ha ha. They're just so funny because they like that I get it. So don't let the information itself be where it stops. Keep your ears open, right? To what else might be happening. I think sometimes we discount the experience because we think, oh, they can't talk like that, or we can't engage in that kind of dialogue. Your guides and angels and God even are going to meet you where you're at. God and I laugh a lot because that's engaging for me, and I almost need the comic relief to not be overwhelmed by what feels like a big responsibility, right? That was one thing that I was like, oh, I don't want the responsibility of delivering this information in the way that you're asking me, God. So to not get a big head about it or not, my ego's not involved because is not as engaged as it could be, I guess I should say, because I don't work alone. I'm just I'm just the messenger. So I think the thing is when spirit shows up, especially guides, they're going to be someone you resonate with, someone that will be captivating. And if they're not, and if it's falling flat or you're not getting answers and you're like, please make this connection clearer, talk louder, write the words down, whatever it takes to get me the message. But if it's not a good connection that's easily or maintained or helpful for you, you can always ask for a new guide. They won't be offended. I've told you this before in the guides video episode. So I think it's important to recognize that, like any relationship, rapport takes time. And so if you want to develop this in your real world and be more apt to recognize intuitive moments that come as clairaudience, I encourage you to sit in meditation time, to sit with a guide or an angel, to work on it there. If you want to know more, don't forget, I have episodes on clairaudient exercises in past episodes that might be of interest. And I have a long form, a long, like, I think it's like is it an hour or something? I think it's like my biggest, most popular episode on YouTube. How's that? ClairAudience. It's the one that took me kind of viral. I went from like 200 followers to like 10,000 followers just in days. It was pretty amazing. It was so amazing. My team was like, Instagram is putting advertisements on the YouTube channel to try to get people over to your Instagram page. I was like, what? That's a thing? So it's a good video, I guess. But it's when I had created it for the podcast audio. So it's only an audio with a lot of pictures. That's why it's not going to be me here animated at the desk, sitting in my studio. Because at that time, even though God said video, and one of the team members at the time said you should do videos, I was like, no way. I don't want to be seen. I'd rather hide, right? Let me hide behind pictures that you could relate to, that might look like you, right? That's the importance of those episodes that have pictures, a lot of pictures of people of, different walks of life and ethnicities and skin colors and sexual orientation and all that, because I love everybody and we're all one. And it's more than just me that can do this. You can do this. This is why we're together here and walking this path together, right? So I encourage you to watch that long ClairAudience episode if you haven't already. What else should I tell you? I think that once you start to recognize yourself, know thyself, when you recognize, oh, that was me, that I have a lot of This was a weighty question. I really want the answer to be a certain way. Once you know yourself more, you'll recognize when you're making maybe mental embellishments or the voice, you've taken it in another direction. But don't forget, you're going to use ClairSensation to hold on to it to make sure you're still hearing the thread of truth as it's coming to you. And if the words from spirit guides, angels, or God stops or falls away, just take a deep breath and you can hold the words up and say, did you say that? Did I hear you right? And they'll say, no, that came from you, not from me. Or they'll say, yes, I did. You heard it right. Right. You'll get goosebumps. You'll get good feelings. You'll get ClairSensation or ClairSentiment kind of backup impact. But otherwise, if the dialogue stops, then ask what happened. Ask what happened and trust the first thing you hear back, right? And then if you're really struggling with that, I invite you to take a deep breath in and go high again and say, I really want to be connected. I ask to be connected and keep me clear, keep my ego out of it. All of these little intentions are going to be beneficial to maintain a solid connection so that you can get guidance, because ClairAudience comes as warnings, guidance, advice, different ways of looking at life or different approaches. It's insight, it's inspiration, right? It doesn't just come in words. It's inspired writing, inspired music creation, inspired artistry. Sometimes it's these voices that we have to listen to because they're kind of pushing us out of our comfort zone, but they're still fine and good, right? And so, yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing to develop. And I think that the more you recognize, like, oh, was that my thought, or was that spirit? Was that guidance? Was that my intuition talking? That's a good thing that you're thinking that. You know why? Is because then you're going to put your hands on your heart and you're going to double check it. And you're going to ask, was that my intuition? Is that guidance? Like, is it going to be okay? I remember when I'm not working, I used to just turn it off and on. I would go psychic when I was working, but not psychic in the world, right? This is why I had some tricky times with friends or people. I was like, oh shoot, I should have gone psychic to go, what's their motivation? What's behind those words that they're giving me? But I think if we recognize these times that we're in our day-to-day life, that we're having like, oh, I lost my train of thought. Can you tell? I'm going to ask Spirit, can you help me out? I think that the cool thing about ClairAudience is recognizing those moments when you're questioning, was that a thought, or was that me thinking, or was that intuition talking? And if those moments arise for you, put your hands on your heart and say, what just happened here? What was that about? And trust the guidance that you get. So 2 things, like I always say, open heart, open mind. Why? Because open mind means you're going to be open to fresh ideas, inspiration, fresh approaches, new ways that you might want to try. And in those moments, you can actually say, I don't know if I believe this is real guidance. Can I get a sign? But you'll also feel it, right? This is why I'm teaching you the 11 soul senses, so that you can use all of them to engage in dialogue and connection and conversation. I want you to be mindful of your thoughts and where they're coming from, whether they're coming to you, from you, through you. So for the next week, I think it would be fabulous if you work on your ClairAudience to fine-tune it, to understand, and to just learn to differentiate when is it mental chatter and the self-critic, and when is it actually intuitive guidance through your ClairAudience. I believe in you. You got this. Be open, heart and mind, and be open to the possibilities of how amazing you are and how amazing your connections will grow to be, and how they will expand your knowing, your wisdom, your insight. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. All right. Thanks for tuning in.